Look, okay? It's not my fault.
I bet nothing's ever your fault, is it, darling?
What?
You have thrown away your life working in some silly Christmas shop.
Baby, don't cry.
Hey, Elf!
This is my little helper.
I have nicknamed her Lazy the Elf because she appears never to work.
Father, Holy Christmas, get me out of here.
What?
Jesus, where'd you come from?
Well, what are you looking at?
Might be a falcon.
Oh, damn it.
I think you just pooed in your eye.
Yeah, I think so.
It's good luck, you know.
What is?
Getting pooed on by a bird.
I'm busy, you're weird. Goodbye.
You've missed 5 doctor's appointments. Mum is scared.
So, tell me about sleep.
She never sleeps.
Exercise?
Religiously.
Not at all.
Alcohol?
Oh, she's drinking like the pirate.
Well, okay, fine. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much for your time. Let's go, Mum.
Oh, you! Again.
What do you mean again?
Did you follow me here?
Are elves always so cynical?
Yes, relentlessly. These are dark times.
I'm Tom.
Kate?
Here we are.
Is this the bit where you murder me?
So what is it that you do?
I sing.
Oh, it's amazing.
Anyway, boring, boring, boring.
I'm not bored.
You are so strange.
Where are you going?
We're in there.
Well, you're not homeless.
No, I volunteer here.
Why didn't you just get Satan tattooed on your forehead?
You were great at your job when you started, but now it's like you don't care anymore.
Oh, hi. Hi.
Can I help?
I'm a mess. I was really sick and I nearly died. I don't tell people because they get weird. But I don't think you'll get weird.
No.
I'm just scared all the time. They just expect me to be normal and get on with life.
There's no such thing as normal. Just being a human being is hard. Maybe you should do something nice for someone.
Deck the halls with bells of holly. Fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly.
Oh, boy.
I've been volunteering at the shelter.
Seriously?
That sounds like a healthy choice. What's wrong with you?
I've been trying to find you, but you keep disappearing. And then when I do bump into you, accidentally, I might add.
It wasn't accidental.
Why me?
It's always going to be you. You like? You're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. You're made of everything you do.
You can't be in here! No, we're leaving!
Welcome to They Called This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Called This a Movie. Hello, friends, and welcome back to They Called This a Movie. I am the host for the evening, Dan Aquino, and I'm joined by my good friend Mark Myers. Say hello, Mark.
Hello, Dan. So I don't know if you've ever had this experience, and it's I know I've talked about this a bunch on the podcast, but it's a new thing for me. But watching through this movie, it being set in London just added a whole new element to me. Just I was looking around trying to see if I noticed places or seeing if I was in locations that they filmed at before. Sure. And I don't know if you've had that experience going to other cities in the US or other countries or things like that. It's been a new phenomenon for me. I mean, I've done it my whole life with Philadelphia. I like to do the joke of to see like how far away locations are, and they try to make them seem really close.
Yeah.
But with this whole new London thing, when I watched Love Actually, and then when I watched this, just a whole different viewing experience.
This is your way of shaming me for not having visited other countries. Is that's what this is, right? Like you're the world traveler on the podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've been to Canada. That's the only thing I've ever done.
That's why I left it open to like different cities and stuff like that you've visited.
That was more of my father's gig. Like,
okay.
He growing up in Manhattan and obviously all these great movies being set in the city, he would constantly talk about like, oh, that you can't have gone from this location to this location that quickly. It's like, this is uptown, this is downtown. Like, oh, that building is really here when they're saying it's like on this location. Me, not so much.
Yeah, I feel like me and your dad could have swapped stories about things shot in our hometowns.
Oh, yeah, he loved pointing that stuff out. It was almost like a hobby for him. You guys
my
have gone along well with that.
Yeah, my favorite one is the beginning of Rocky 2, where the ambulances are driving towards City Hall in Philadelphia, and then you end up at a hospital that's 8 blocks in the other direction.
Oh, of course.
It's like, there is actually a hospital that way, but not the one they advertise in the movie. Yeah. That one is about 1.5 miles in the other direction.
It's movie magic, man. That's the of movies.
It's the joke I made about that one, is that it's a prettier shot to head up Broader Market, I forget which side they're on, towards City Hall, the building.
Yeah.
Rather than showing it going the other direction.
Yeah. I think that's what the location scouts probably see. Like, all right, well, this looks great here, but this hospital's not what we are looking for necessarily.
Yeah, the other one's more picturesque than the one that is close to City Hall. But the fun thing is that turned us into a little bit of a Rocky stuff. But I love the fact that they started a charity run called the Rocky Run, and it's the 31K 31 miles or whatever that he traveled in the movie for the montage.
Oh yeah, cool.
And going through all the actual locations and
that's awesome.
trying to do it
for a good cause.
Yeah, it's pretty funny because it literally turns into like a bit longer than a marathon.
And you also have to remember the movies are being viewed like by like 99% of the viewing audience has no clue that hospital or that building isn't in the same direction.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's probably what happens in movies like this, or even Love Actually with London. Like, of all the things, obviously some of the bigger locations, when she's on the Thames and stuff like that, I recognize some of those from walking around. But the only like pure thing was she gets on like the 23 bus, and I actually rode that bus. And I was like, oh, I kind of recognize where that's going. But that's about it. Like, they could have been that homeless shelter, could have been, a whole other side of London from where her job was supposed to take place.
It might not even be in London.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, a lot of this stuff could have been filmed in another country, and we would never know unless we looked it up.
Yeah, I think most of it is filmed at least in England, whether it's London or not.
Which confuses me partially, because there's a character in this movie who makes a weird choice for themselves.
Yeah.
And I'll get into that, but I kept thinking to myself, this is set in London, right? And my wife said, yeah, it's London.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll transition to that.
Yeah.
Unless there's anything else you wanted to.
No, nothing on that. We can transition into the movie. What was your thought that you were bringing up?
So my thought was, for those of you listening, as you know, this is our movie of the month, and since we are in December, we went full holiday mode, Christmas to the nines, and on the wheel we spun my movie. And this movie that I picked was the 2019 infamous holiday classic, I guess, Last Christmas with Emilia Clarke, directed by Paul Feig? It's not Feige, it's Feig, right?
Yeah, Paul Feig.
Paul Feig. And written partially by Emma Thompson. And so that was her character in this movie is Yugoslavian?
Like, I think Croatian. I think they reveal that at the very end.
But she's British in real life.
Oh yeah, Emilia Clarke is correct.
Well, so is Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
So Emilia Clarke and Emma Thompson are both British, I believe.
I believe the reason they did what they did here was I think they wanted to have that what's it called? That scene that's actually about Brexit, apparently.
That's right. Brexit was going on at this time.
Yeah. I think that's why Emma Thompson wrote that in. And the only way her and Emilia Clarke could be in this movie is if they were some kind of white immigrant. Obviously.
It's such a weird... I couldn't help but I couldn't differentiate. It's like I kept thinking Emilia Clarke is British, Emma Thompson is British. Emma Thompson probably could have written herself as. We'll get into it. I don't want to jump too far.
Yeah. No, I was just trying to, while you were talking, just see if maybe if they had anywhere listed what her, like, if she did have any.
Was?
Yeah, any Eastern European in her. But I can't do a quick research. I can't really tell. But on Twitter, if you guys can let us know if Emma Thompson has any,
ancestry
in the Baltics or anything. So this, go ahead.
This movie was. I wanted to like this movie so badly. I had never seen it before, but I had only heard about the infamous twist that's in this movie,
which I did not know going in. So we'll get to that when I get to my part.
And neither did my wife, but I thought she knew. So I blurted it out like 10 minutes into the movie, and she was mad at me for the rest of the runtime. So it made it an incredibly awkward viewing experience. But we'll get into the twist, obviously. But so me personally, I had never seen it. I had only heard about it. I wanted to like this movie so badly, but everything about it is just a huge downer. There's humor in it, but it's very awkward, cringy humor at times. I don't think Emilia Clarke has been able to kick the Khaleesi curse, and this movie kind of keeps her on that path of just what could have been, or just trying to break out of it, and she can't quite do it. Michelle Yeoh is fantastic in it. She's probably the funniest character. I don't know. This movie is a conundrum because, again, it has Christmas. It has a Christmas feel to it, but it doesn't hit the mark. And so, Mark, what do you think about Last Christmas?
Yeah, so I think for me, because I'm a little bit more of the Christmas movie person, I guess, of our group here. I was fine with the movie. It's a little, cheesy and stuff like that, but, I've sat through tons of Hallmark movies. And I was like, okay, the only thing about Emilia Clarke's character is I think she's too nice of a person to pull off how shitty of a character Kate is supposed to be. Yeah. Through the first half of the movie. And so I couldn't really buy that. And I think that was like made it from being like an actual good Christmas movie. And then the twist just ruined any chance of that. I would say that if it happened to be on TV during a marathon of Christmas movies, I wouldn't turn it off. It's not offensive in any way. It's not like there's some really terrible Christmas movies that sit in rotations that I just don't get. And this one is fine. It's got enough Christmas in there. The George Michael soundtrack, a lot of good, some deep covers, or should not covers, deep into his discography.
Yeah, deep cuts.
That's what I'm looking for.
There we go.
They, things I've only heard once or twice from like a cousin or something playing the album in full. And it didn't one of those where I heard it and was like, oh, I didn't know it's a George Michael song. But yeah, the whole concept of the movie, where I would have been fine if it wouldn't have had the twist. And yeah, because Henry Golding and Emilia Clarke were fine. Like, as I know I keep using the word fine. It's just like they fit together. Their acting styles and senses of humor sort of blended well. There wasn't any like one person out acting the other completely. Right. I do think my favorite moments of the movie, and maybe I'm a weird one, but it made me chuckle even on second viewing, was a lot of the stuff with Emma Thompson. When she's, the line that makes me laugh the hardest is still, because I don't know if she ad-libbed it or not, because she was a writer or put it in there, is at the Christmas dinner when she's talking to Kate and then goes, "Before we eat the lesbian pudding." And it makes me chuckle because it comes out of nowhere, the way she says it, and just in the accent and stuff. And then you can see them. They look like it's like a genuine reaction from like Amelia Clark and the actress playing the sister.
Yeah, she might have ad-libbed it.
Yeah, like, Mom. Like, and it just gets me. And I felt like, as much as the accent and all that stuff, which she was good at, if I didn't know that was Emma Thompson, it wasn't terrible. But
yeah,
I just felt that you could have, the two actors in this movie that were actually probably the good actors in the movie, you saw the least of, meaning her and Michelle Yeoh.
Right.
I felt a little bit more of them would have, maybe helped with the plot a little bit more. But
I agree. I wish we would have gotten more of Michelle Yeoh and Emilia Clarke's characters, like interactions, because there was something planted in there that they didn't fully explore, and I think that would have been more interesting.
Yeah, and exactly I know the movie was sort of meant to be like one of those vehicles, as they call it, for her and Henry Golding.
Yeah.
To sort of, jumpstart into maybe becoming the next romantic comedy people. He already had Crazy Rich Asians.
Yeah. He was kind of riding that tide.
Yeah. And, throw her in there. But yeah, it was just, I think a lot of the delivery from, Emma Thompson and Michelle Yeoh was probably the most on point of anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think Emilia Clarke sort of gets it, but like I said, the times when she has to be really shitty, it's not believable. I don't know if you felt that way.
It's more accidental shittiness, right? Like for instance, at the beginning she sleeps with a married man, but she doesn't know that. She crushes a friend's paperwork by accident. Yeah. She didn't mean to do it. So yeah, a lot of the things that happen to her are more just her being clumsy in a way, and it's really not. I don't hate her at any point. I don't feel as if she's a bad person.
Yeah.
I just think she's down on her luck. And at the same time, I also don't think her mom is a bad person.
No.
So I don't see the disconnect. Like, why do they hate each other?
Yeah. So my thought is that I think maybe I'm a little blinded by I just finished my second viewing of it. And when you know the twist already and you go back and watch the movie, in some cases it makes the movie better. Okay. In this case, it makes all of Kate's choices before you find out the twist seem really terrible and irresponsible. The drinking, not eating a healthy diet, the not sleeping a lot, bouncing from house to house, the stress and all that for someone that, and we'll reveal the twist here because we just keep talking around it.
Yeah, let's just dive in.
She had a heart transplant.
Yes.
I had to literally look up during the second viewing, how long does it take to recover from a heart transplant? Like, because this seems really fast that she just seems to be abusing her body.
Yeah. In the movie, she's 26 years old, she says.
Yeah. And it takes like 6 months at most to recover. So the timeline's fine for her to be back to a normal life.
Sure.
But, it also, the risk factors from everything, not to turn this into a medical podcast, but the risk factors I saw is that it's most likely that heart will only last like 10 to 20 years if she takes care of it, which is kind of morbid to think of while watching this movie. But
that's what this movie is. This movie is like underlying depressing.
Yeah.
It masquerades as a Christmas movie, but it's super depressing.
Yeah, when you actually dig into what they're talking about and they try to, what they try to cover up with, it making her a good person and the meeting of them and the romance and all that. Yes. But just the underlying stuff is really, really dark and, just, I don't know, just like I said, through second viewing, it actually makes the movie, makes me a little more angry at Kate than I was in the first viewing. But yeah, I don't know. And then I felt completely stupid because finishing the twist. So Tom, the person, Henry Golding's character, is dead and a ghost because the heart that Kate has is his heart. And he died last Christmas because he gave her his heart.
Yes.
And
And she was
when
giving the heart away, essentially, because she was drinking and partying. And,
yes. And it made me so mad when I made the connection and they revealed it because it's in the damn song and it's so dumb.
Yes. And so I think the main problem with it, and I know what Paul Feig was trying to do. You know, he was trying to pull a It's a Wonderful Life, right? Where Emilia Clarke's character thinks she's better off dead in a way. Like, she doesn't care about her life.
Yeah.
And Henry Golding, his character, is the Clarence, just, like, rescuing her, showing her how great life can be if she cares. But that's all well and good. But then you make the mistake of having Henry Golding become the love interest. And that's where everything kind of falls apart. Because he's a ghost.
Yes.
You can't have your main character fall in love with a ghost like this. Because you're just setting her up to have the rug pulled out from under her. And then her life possibly crumbling again.
Yeah.
And,
and
we were talking about it. I'm sorry to cut you off, but real quick.
Yeah.
We were talking about it, Jen and I, where this doesn't feel like a Christmas movie at that point. Because now is she crazy?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on with her?
Yeah, like there's so many. I want to point out this one thing I just saw from a thing from a review, and it shows you through first viewing why first and second viewing are different. The guy from the AV Club, I believe it's Charles Bramesco, criticized the plot twist, but he praised Clarke's performance because she succeeds at the only thing you're supposed to in a rom-com, which is you want to see the main character happy.
Yes.
And I'm like, through the first viewing, that is how you feel. But then when you find out the twist and you rewatch the movie, you have a different feeling about that. I think that's what stops this from being like that. And it was, I don't know.
It's so close. It could have been a very heartwarming story where Henry Golding, you keep him as the ghost, and he helps her find love.
And she falls in love with the young guy working at the homeless shelter.
Yes, thank you. That's what I thought was going to happen.
Yes.
Because she even at the end, she's kind of giving him a smile, or maybe there will be something. But you got to set it up where Tom, Henry Golding's character, Tom, is kind of guiding her to someone that will appreciate her and show her that life is worth living. You can't have your ghost tell you that life is worth living.
Yeah.
It's not that type of movie at that point. You've made it, like you said, it's a rom-com.
Yeah, it's essentially what it is.
I also disagree with setting the entire soundtrack to George Michael. And nothing against his music. He has great music, but you don't need everything in there. I mean, I know it's the title of the movie, but Last Christmas plays in this 6 times. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And then
but they have the techno version.
That's right. And then they have like the weird monkey version that Michelle Yeoh plays on the Christmas Gibbon.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's a thing. That was another like odd choice. Michelle Yeoh's character runs a Christmas shop that just has disgusting, undesirable ornaments.
Yeah, it's a crocodile with pom-poms.
With pom-poms. Okay, I guess. You could have just made it a regular Christmas shop.
Yeah, I love the I will say my one side recurring characters is I did love the cops. The cops, they did a pretty good job with them.
I thought they were going to play a little bit more into the story.
Yeah, they should have.
Yeah.
But, maybe they see her talking to herself and walk over and go, Are you okay?
Are you okay, love? Yeah, I agree. I also wasn't a fan of how we find out that Tom is dead.
Oh, yeah.
It's very anticlimactic.
And that guy's not a very good actor.
No.
Webster something.
Right. Yeah. Just very he felt as if he was just reading his lines.
Yeah, he was probably definitely shouldn't say probably because I always liked the couch, but I think he might have been the weakest actor. Yeah, I think the the best short performance was her friend.
Oh, the pregnant lady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's done some stuff. She was in she's in Umbrella Academy, and she was in that movie. What was it called? Polite Society. That like action movie with the two Indian sisters.
Oh,
I don't know if you've seen the preview for that.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, and she's one of the Barbies in Barbie.
Oh, that's cool.
So like, you know, it's just one of those things where I always say when we watch these movies, it's sometimes you can see that one person if you like and go, oh, that was actually good. She did a good job in that short scene. Let me look her up, and then she's done good stuff since. You're like, you know, you can see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone did a fine job, I think. And like how you were saying in the beginning, Mark, fine. This is a fine movie overall. Yeah. I think this got a lot of bad publicity and a lot of bad press when it came out because of the twist.
Yeah.
But I as I was watching it, I really felt like, man, I can see someone watching this, like making this part of their Christmas routine. Because again, it has the Christmas feel to it. You have the character who's kind of down on her luck and not a big fan of Christmas, and then she finds her joy and she's singing Christmas carols and putting on a play. Yeah, I can see a kernel of a Christmas movie in there, but you take that twist out. That's that one change, and you got yourself a good Christmas movie. But Paul Feig went too far. He said, "What if I made Ghosts but put a whole lot of Wham in there?" And just like he missed the mark, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think the what's it called? The George Michael soundtrack. I know you mentioned her. I think I think the whole point was supposed to be like a tribute to him when he passed in 2016. That's probably when they started writing it.
Okay,
and got the idea for it. So maybe that's why it's all in there. Also, just spotting Andrew Ridgeley in the crowd at the end, I was like, wait, is that Andrew Ridgeley? The other guy in Wham?
The other guy in Wham, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And finding out, looking it up when we got in here, and I was like, I'm like 90% sure that, he does have a little cameo in there in the crowd. Like, I don't know if he's like focused, I forget, but it was just like, I was like, because when I saw him, I was like, oh, that'd be pretty cool. Like, did they get actual Andrew Ridgeley? Did they get someone that kind of looked like Andrew Ridgeley to like be there? But I think the George Michael thing is what makes it unique. You know, having his other songs for people that might not have been exposed to anything outside of, you know, they play Freedom, you know, and Faith, and you know, there's probably nowhere for Careless Whisper, I guess, in this movie.
Yeah, that's the surprising thing. Like, if you're gonna play the hits, play all the hits. You could have taken one of the Last Christmas parts out. There's so many. You just put in Careless Whisper, and no one would have noticed the difference.
Yeah. It's just having her sing Christmas carols, you know, kind of, you know, maybe negates not having, you know, needing to pay for other people to sing, you know, Deck the Halls and all that.
Sure.
I just love that they threw so much of the Christmas movie narrative thing into this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the two characters meeting randomly, and you know, her saving something, in this case raising money for the homeless shelter. You know, and the romance throughout the movie is what makes them a better person. I think we keep coming back to the twist as being the one the thing that sort of kills it, because they nail all the other great stuff that I love about Christmas movies. And yeah, it's just, I wish, my last statement on it is I just wish there's some slight tweaks. Could have kept the twist, just some slight tweaks on what they did, and it would have been something that could have been in my rotation.
Yeah, and I guess piggybacking off that, I would say it's a fine movie. I think it's a paint by numbers rom-com. You have the meet cute, you have them doing quirky things together. You know, they go ice skating, they go gallivanting around London, just dancing, looking around, being silly.
Look up, Dan.
Look up. Yeah, look up. It's and listen, there's a nice little message in there. It had all of the emotional beats of your rom-com, and it had all the emotional beats of a Christmas movie, right? It's better to help others than to help yourself. But by helping others, you are helping yourself, and forgiving family members and just those little beats that you would expect in a Christmas movie and a rom-com. But it's not the sum of its parts, unfortunately. Yeah. It did. I think it extended itself a little too much. We talked about how we don't hate Emilia Clarke's character really, and she did a fine job being fine.
Yes,
that's the operative word in this movie is fine.
Yeah, and just going back to our thing about where it was filmed, it was definitely all filmed in London.
Okay.
The couple of locations I noticed was in Piccadilly Circus, which I was in, which people, once you look at what Piccadilly Circus is, you've seen it if you've seen movies in London.
Sure.
It's sort of like Times Square in that way. Gives them the uniqueness of how it looks. The Thames Embankment, where she sits and eats a couple times. And she's on that one bridge. I forget which one of the two bridges it is. Before she goes home for the first time. The Christmas shop is in Covent Gardens, which is in the West End, which puts it near Piccadilly Circus. So that sort of makes sense. And then the one area where I noticed, because of the bus, is I think it's Marylebone, Maryleybone, like Marylebone.
Okay.
That was where I went through that area going to the Sherlock Holmes Museum. So I was like, that's why I recognized with the bus. But yeah, so and West London Film Studios, and they're equivalent to Hollywood, and but yeah, it was all filmed in, and the location with the benches is called the Phoenix Garden. So it seems to be a real place.
Garden.
Yeah, it seems to be a real place, and the homeless shelter is a church. So
real quick for you, question.
Yeah,
that secret garden.
Yeah,
everyone that's there, are they dead, or is it just Henry Golding that's dead?
For her to not seem like a crazy person, they all need to be dead.
Yeah, because she makes out with him on the bench.
And scream and has that little mini argument.
Right. Yeah. So again, you have to remember, folks, she's having a conversation with nobody. So they do a little flashback, right?
Yeah. Yeah, all the flashbacks. And then there's scenes, like there's two scenes, and this will be my last thing before we can, get ready for the plot.
Yeah.
Is how does she get in the apartment?
Yeah. That's a good question.
Like, at least with the ice skating rink, I can plausibly see, like, that's where her audition is, so she knows where it is.
Yeah.
And can get into it.
Open.
And the door's just open.
Yeah.
So I can see that. But the craziness that it must seem like when she's standing right outside the bus.
Yes. I thought
with the driver looking at her.
Right. Like, I'm surprised the driver's like, who are you talking to?
Yeah. Like, because obviously you can't ruin the movie that early, but it's sort of like those are the two situations where him being a ghost makes no sense. The rest of the time you can sort of, get away with it because he never interacts with anything really that's not her.
Yeah, he doesn't talk to anyone else.
Doesn't talk to anyone else. Doesn't really touch anything that's not her.
Just
until he opens the apartment door,
Right. Now, also the bike. He has the bike throughout the whole movie, and that's the bike he was riding when he got hit.
Exactly. So that's why he has the bike.
Is the bike also a ghost?
Yes, it's a ghost bike.
It's a ghost bike. Okay. All right. So if you died on something, it follows you into the afterlife.
Yes, exactly. So for everybody out there, be careful what you die on.
Be careful what you die with.
Yeah, it follows you. But yeah, those two scenes, like the apartment thing, coming from someone that works in that industry, just the idea of like, was that door unlocked? Was there like a key nearby? Like how? Like the concept of getting into that apartment is I know you're supposed to suspend disbelief or whatever it's called because it is a movie, but the rest I only get sort of worked up a little bit about it because the rest of the movie they do a really good job of having everything be plausible if he's a ghost.
Yes.
Santa, which is Michelle Yeoh's character, never sees him or never has a chance to see him.
No one sees him, right?
Obviously no one sees him, but I mean, like, he's not sitting there talking to her while one of the characters we know is there.
Right.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, like the mother never sees him, Michelle Yeoh never sees him. Yeah, no one sees him.
So
no one important.
Yeah, like obviously people see her talking to herself and would have the opportunity to see him.
Right.
And yeah, but that apartment thing kills me because they do such a good job the rest of the time.
He does her dirty, and we'll get into it. I'll get into it when we get into the plot. So, because there's so much to talk about. I'm glad because as I was watching this, I was like, I don't know if we're gonna have a lot to talk about here, but we it seems that we do, thankfully, which is a testament to us. But all right, so let's do a quick rundown of Last Christmas. Came out in 2019 with a 6.5 IMDb rating and a 46% on the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes. 81% audience score, though, which is pretty, that's a huge gap there.
Yeah, I would say it's about fair for Christmas movies. You probably get a higher audience score.
Yeah, and again, rom-com
usually
does pretty well. Budget is $25 million. Opening weekend, $11,441,000. Gross worldwide, $123,446,172. So it was a hit.
Yeah.
It's a banger. Made a lot of money, but lambasted, I guess, by
critics.
All the critics, yeah. I remember when this movie came out, everyone hated it. But I don't see it. But I guess we'll get into that when we get into the plot. I know I usually do the rundown, but Mark, do you want to plug Game Vault real quick?
Yeah. So the Game Vault podcast airs every other Monday. So I think it airs. It aired this week, so not next week, not the Monday, but the Monday after. We talk about video games, news of the day. We usually have a topic of conversation, something to do with video games or something in our interaction with video games. We talk about what we've been playing, and then we review our Retro Roulette game, which is a game from Tom's backlog, essentially. He has a whole bunch of old retro games from NES, SNES, and we play it and then discuss it and then give it a rating at the end. We just finished up last week playing The Uncanny X-Men.
Is that the Sega?
NES, and it's awful.
Yeah. Oh,
okay. You should ask Jen about it.
Oh, wait a minute. That's the game where you have to pick two characters, right? And one of them,
exactly.
Oh my god. That game gave me nightmares as a kid.
Yeah.
It's so ugly.
Yeah, so that games like that, and then we play really good games too that are on the list. We spin a wheel every week to pick our game. So be sure to check it out on all podcast services. iTunes, leave us a review, 5 stars there. And then we also stream on Twitch under Game Vault Pod as well. Every Monday that the podcast airs, we stream our Retro Roulette game that night. And then we're going to have Monday streams for a little while longer here. And then, we stream at least 2 to 3 times during the week, hopefully, as we go along here. But yeah, so check us out. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, if you happen to be there. Game Vault Pod in all places. And we look to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And before we head into the break, I will give a quick shout out to our friend Tia and Brittany and their podcast, The Top 10 with Tia. It's a podcast where Tia and Brittany run down their top 10 list of the week. If that is something you're interested in, please go over to geekvibesnation.com, search the top 10 with Tia, and it'll pop right up. So I think that's all the house cleaning that we have to do for right now. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. We open in Yugoslavia, 1999. The Andrich family's having a Christmas service where little Katerina is singing in the choir. Her parents, Petra, played by Emma Thompson, and Ivan, played by Boris Iskovich. Oh, you know what? Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
I didn't say who starred in this, did I?
Yeah, you didn't do that for that part, but that's fine.
Okay. So, all right, I'll redo it.
Count in again, yeah.
All right. In 3, 2, 1. And welcome back, and we are going to get into the plot for Last Christmas. We open Yugoslavia in 1999. The Andrich family is having a Christmas service where little Katerina is singing in the choir. Her parents, Petra, played by Emma Thompson, and Ivan, played by Boris Iskovic, plus Katerina's older sister, Marta, watch and admire her singing. While Marta is admiring one of the other choir girls, which I did not pick up on, but makes total sense as we get into the rest of the movie. Flash forward, London, England, 2017. Katerina, who now goes by Kate, played by Emilia Clarke, has become distant from her family, but especially Petra and Marta, who's now played by Lydia Leonard, the grown-up Marta. She hooks up with a guy at a bar and sleeps at his place. When she uses the shower in the morning, she's greeted by the man's wife, who kicks Kate out after she says she was the plumber.
Yeah, that whole scene in the shower they did a really good job of just making like her makeup and all just make her just look like a complete mess. Like you get the idea of of her as a person, at this point. Just by the look in the shower and the fact that she couldn't come up with anything better than plumber when she's in the shower. But I don't know if that was meant to be like that she's not quick on her feet sort of thing, or it was just a bad joke that just doesn't land as well as it probably should.
Yeah,
but,
I thought the same thing. Like, is this supposed to be like a weird kind of joke or like an inside joke or something that we're not privy to? I'm not 100% sure. Like, they bang the plumber, because usually it's reversal, right? The plumber's a guy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it doesn't land very well. But so we find. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and then when they asked, "Did you shag him?" and just the face she gives, it's just very, very Emilia Clarke.
Yeah, she's adorable.
Yeah.
So we find Kate works at a Christmas shop as an elf, working for a woman who goes by Santa, played by Michelle Yeoh, who sees potential in Kate, but is annoyed that she constantly screws up.
Yeah, I love the name Tide. I think that's actually a good fake shop name.
Yeah, I think so too. And it baffled me when towards the end of the movie or like middle of the movie where Kate finds out that Michelle Yeoh's character is not named Santa.
Yeah.
What's the matter with you? An Asian woman would go by Santa?
Yeah.
You gotta, come on, think a little bit. While at work, Marta visits Kate and forces her to step outside and talk to their mom, even though Kate doesn't want to. Later on, Kate meets a man named Tom Webster, played by Henry Golding. Kate finds him charming, if not a bit odd. Their moment is then ruined by a bird just taking a big old dump on Kate's face. So I guess that's one way to have a meet cute, I suppose. But
yeah. I mean, it what it does, and again, this is through multiple viewings, you kind of figure this out. It does his whole thing, which is to look up. Like you miss things if you don't like look up and look around. Like it's basically his thing is like don't be in your phone. It's sort of like his whole concept in this. I thought that was going to come into play with his death, but it doesn't.
Right, I thought the same thing. Like I thought he'd be distracted looking up at something
or looking down at something.
Okay,
but he was distracted, but not looking up or down. So
wait, what was he? He was looking at a bus of tourists or something like that.
Yeah, something happened in front of a bus, and then he didn't see the car coming the other lane. But what this scene does is it gives that whole thing, and the fact that the bird pooping in her eye allows her to go back in the shop and do anything without really acknowledging him. Like Santa didn't have to see him.
Sure.
And I thought it was like, okay, if everything's going to be as clever as this going forward, in terms of, keeping the mystery of the meet cute guy secret, I was going to be happy, but we all know where it goes.
Yeah. I thought it was symbolism what Paul Feig thought of all the Ghostbuster fanboys. They dump on him. Outside of work, Kate tries to crash with her friend Jenna, played by Ritu Arya, and her husband Rufus, Ansu Kebia. The latter not being too fond of Kate after she accidentally burned his model ship, which brings us back to our discussion at the beginning where Kate's not really a bad person, she just accidentally does the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think more of when I said she's a shitty person comes from the self-harm stuff.
Yes, 100%.
That you find out. But
the character Rufus calls her very selfish, but I don't see it that way. In terms, she's selfish because she's not taking care of herself, but She's not selfish towards other people.
From his perspective, all he sees is someone that just wants to sleep on the couch or take their room. Like, it's never shown that she helps out with them or, anything like that. And then the reason she gets kissed out, which happens a little bit later here, outside of the falling on the couch and crushing the thing he was so painstakingly doing, is that she brought a guy home to sleep with into their apartment.
Oh, and it was in their baby's room.
In their baby's room.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
not great.
No.
All right. Kate tries to make an audition for a theater production, but she arrives late and is forced to sing a cappella, and the judges dismiss her. At the shop, a Danish man enters, and he and Santa appear to share a weird, creepy connection, which I was not a fan of. Kate notices this. She later leaves work after accepting an invite to go out with Tom. They go out on the town, which proves to be fun for Kate. She learns that Tom volunteers at a homeless shelter in his spare time, and that night ends up with... go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if it jumped.
It did. They skipped out on...
Yeah, I was going to say. So the first date, when she sees him, like, she runs out on the audition, and then when she comes back, just so we don't miss this part, because it is important, you can scan over, is that when she comes back after the audition and going out on the second, I guess, meet with Tom, and they just go through, walk around. He takes her down the thinnest alley thing, and they do the look up stuff, see the grasshopper, all this comes into play, and does all that. And then the next morning, she gets to work, sees the cops there, and finds out, as you see it as a viewer, that she didn't lock the door running out to try to make the audition. And then this is where it comes down. It's that thing that I don't know if actually ever happens at a job, because I've never been in this position, Dan, and you probably not as either, where the person's like, I like you and you're great. I'm going to give you one last chance. Like,
thankfully not.
Yeah.
I've never screwed up that badly.
Yeah. And it's just sort of like, I was like, this feels like it's just a movies thing. Like, if you screw up this bad, like, you would get fired in real life.
So this is what I kind of was alluding to at the beginning, where they really they plant this kernel of there's a mother-daughter relationship between Michelle Yeoh's character and Emilia Clarke's character.
Yeah.
And this is where you get that first inkling of it, right? So what I thought was going to happen was Michelle Yeoh was going to be like the surrogate mother to Emilia Clarke. But it's really, they build more of a friendship throughout the movie, which is fine. But I thought they were going more of the surrogate mother route.
Yeah. And this is the first time that anybody in this movie tells Emilia Clarke's character the truth.
Yes. Yeah, like she's basically wasting her life. And there's potential.
And being selfish.
Yes.
In the way, like, the friend's husband doesn't really explain it well enough, but explains it in the way that she gets, like, you had potential, you were so great, I was lucky to have you, but ever since you came back, it just seems like you couldn't care about anything, you're selfish, and,
Yeah, her work has suffered for it.
Yeah, exactly. And this is, like, supposed to be the first turning point thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I would have liked to have seen more, a couple more scenes. You don't need much more to make the movie too long. Just a couple more. You could take out, like, maybe shorten some of the Tom stuff. Just build all that, like, build more of her world than just the romance.
Yeah, I agree. I think learning a little bit more about how their relationship was prior to everything happening, maybe relationship with some of her friends, instead of just the romance. Yeah, I think that would have been interesting to see.
Yeah, because you don't even know if she has friends outside.
Right. Like, they say she, Jenna is her oldest friend, but we don't get a feel for what it used to be. It's just what it is now.
Yeah. I mean, and like we mentioned, I would like to see some more of the characters. They seem to write the side characters much better. Mm-hmm. Because, again, another line that gave me a chuckle was the fish knife thing. With the best friend, where she's like, I can't cut through this with a fish knife, and the husband goes,
I'm trying to peel this with a fish knife,
and the husband goes, well, if anybody can, it'd be you. And it's just such a good.
I will say, as the husband of a pregnant wife, that is 100% correct. Baby brain, Like you have that fog where you're picking things up that you don't mean to pick up, and you're using things you don't mean to use. It's 100% real. So they wrote that character perfectly.
Yeah.
The night ends with them entering an ice skating rink, them being Tom and Kate. They have a good time until a security guard kicks them out. Or so here they go into the Kate forgetting to lock up, blah, blah, blah. We already covered that. So to make matters more complicated, Jenna and Rufus kick Kate out after one too many screw-ups. The screw-ups being banging a stranger in their soon-to-be baby's room. And it seemed like the straw that broke the camel's back wasn't that, but her sitting on the paper, like the paper mache thing.
Yeah.
Which is a weird way to have it ordered. I think it would have been funnier if she sits on the paper and like, oh my god, all right, well, that's fine, it's not a big deal. And then some like half naked dude walks out of the baby's room, like, all right, now you gotta go.
Yeah, and this is the second thing of his that she destroyed.
Yes, that's true. On another outing with Tom, the two end up going back to his place. How they get in, we don't know. It's never explained. Kate tells him about an illness she had in which she required a heart transplant, and it made her feel bad about herself. So instead of feeling alive, she was half dead due to needing help. I've never experienced anything like that. I'm sure it is a weird feeling having someone else's vital organ in you. And I think they do a good job in relaying that.
Yeah.
It's almost like survivor's guilt.
Yeah, and this whole scene comes with another small thing they skipped on. Comes after where she has her lowest moment with her family. They have the fight at the dinner with the sister.
So you're thinking one scene ahead. No, right? Because you're right. Because
she goes and finds him after that.
Yeah.
And it that whole scene, until the way that scene was playing out, was really well done in my thought. Because she's at her lowest point. She had the fight with the sister and basically outed the sister to her parents. Which, by the way, you should never out anyone. I'm going to preface this by saying that you should never out someone at any point. But the sister's not the nicest person in this scene.
Thank you. Yes.
And just, I know they set it up, but if I was the sister in a real situation and not a movie setting up the drama here, and I had the secret that she had, I would never say the line to my other sister to the effect of, "You're not who you say you are," or something like that.
Yeah.
Because
I thought the same thing. Right? Like your sister has this round in the chamber ready to go.
Yeah.
Don't provoke them.
Yeah, don't.
You're right. Yeah. You shouldn't out anybody. But if you push someone too far, who's at their breaking point, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's probably not going to be very good.
Yeah, you have to know the words you're going to use.
Yes.
Essentially.
Yes.
Like everything else she said is fine. Like I'm 100% on Marta's side.
Yes.
In the whole argument she has with her mother, because it is 100% true that the mother is just completely just shitting on this girl for no reason at all, and nothing in this movie has shown us that Kate is any kind of golden child until this scene.
The only scene we get is the very beginning where Emma Thompson is like crying at how well Kate is singing in the choir.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, we needed a scene, like, even if you wanted to do like a quick little recap of how their lives kind of went separate ways as they got older, right? Yeah. And how the mom still preferred one of them to the other, and you could get that feeling of separation.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't know why Marta doesn't like Kate, other than she doesn't call the mother, and the mother keeps calling Marta.
Yeah.
That's their reasoning for not liking each other.
Yeah, and I'm 100%, maybe because I tend to be Marta in this situation for most of it, outside of the part where she gets shitted on by because I kind of, in my family, I'm kind of both.
You're Marta in your family.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of both in that, in the situation where, I always get the call from my mom saying, "Why is your sister calling me or talking to me?" but I'm also the one that gets the praise in front of my sister, in the way Kate does in this scene.
Sure.
So I kind of can see it from both sides, but like I said, this whole scene until she, hindsight, once you know the secret, you're like, why did she had the high ground, until she did that little needle that set the bomb off.
She just pushed her too far.
Yeah, she was winning the argument until she just had to get that little twist in, because she's had so much pent up rage at Kate. And that's the main thing. She goes off Kate Katerina, trying to ashamed of who you are, is what she said. Good, I got that in my head by talking through it.
Yeah, there you go. You could also say you're similar to Kate because you love singing.
Yes,
George Michael song.
Exactly.
Every
you know
time
me too well, Dan.
Yeah, you always have a George Michael song in your heart.
Yeah. Anytime we go out to karaoke, I'm like, anybody want to sing "Freedom" with me?
Yeah, that gets all the girls, man.
So, and now we're at the most improbable scene of the movie in the apartment.
So, right. So they go back to his place. She's talking about how she feels half dead due to having the heart transplant. This is where the movie takes a weird turn. Everything's going okay, but then it takes a weird left turn. Kate then asks Tom to kiss her goodnight, which he does. That was the first mistake. However, when she tries to see him again, Tom tells her that she cannot keep being dependent on him, which makes her upset. So again, I think everything's you're kicking ass right now, Paul Feige. I'm gonna keep screwing that name up. Paul.
It's Feig.
Paul, you're doing a good job. You've got us on track here, but then you have your main character make out with a ghost. Can't do that. No good. So after that, Kate goes to a homeless shelter to look for Tom after he's been gone for several days. One of the men working there doesn't appear to know who Kate is talking about. She ends up getting roped into volunteering and helping out, and later even sets up a bucket outside while dressed up as an elf to sing Christmas carols. So what I thought was going to happen here, Mark, and let me know if you thought the same. So the person that they're talking about here, his name is Daniel. He's a handicapped person, and he's kind of surly.
Yeah.
I thought Dan was going to break the news about Tom being dead because, like, if you have a character named Dan, he's got to be an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
That's just how life is.
Uh-huh.
And I figured, he's gonna see she's happy. Like, Tom's been dead for 6 months, and just like totally like level her with that news. But we find out later who we'll get into who kind of gets that out there.
Yeah.
So after this, Kate starts to try and do right by other people, starting with her family. She goes to Marta's house and finally meets Alba, who's her girlfriend. Marta forgives her sister, and later on a bus, Kate sees a Yugoslavian couple being harassed by a racist man. The old "go back to your country if you don't speak the language," which is that's a great one to go with. If you had to go with stock racist.
Yeah, and I told the story. I actually ran into a situation like that when I was in London on the tube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and me and like the guy had no like. The guy just leans in, says something to the effect of, get out of my country to this, well, I guess we'll just say black gentleman. I was about to say African American, but, he's probably English.
Right.
This black gentleman, and they couldn't hear him. And the guy goes, "What did you just say?" And then the guy just starts blasting the music on his chest and then walks off the subway.
Oh, jeez.
Sort of like what happens in this movie, except for the fun scene where me and the guy, because I was like standing up and he was sitting down, actually sort of look at each other going, Did that?
Did I really just see that happen?
Did that just happen? I didn't start talking to the man like Kate does in this scene, but it was sort of that, that moment this guy did that. I was like, oh, is this a thing that happens in London?
Were you happy to see that it's not just us Americans who do that? Like, oh
no, yeah, I wasn't even thinking that. I was just thinking like maybe I saw like a once in the blue moon occurrence, and then I see it in this movie. I'm like, is this just a thing that they draw from? Is that people yell at other people on public transportation in London?
I think that's just a human trait now. People
Yeah.
yelling at other people. Anywhere you go in the world.
This was pre-pandemic too. You were in this movie, so
Yeah, a year before.
can't even blame it on that.
Well, not even a year, because this came out in November of 2019. So
A few months.
3-4 months later, we were in pandemic times. So then things start to get real hairy. So Kate goes to sit by them and speaks to them in their native tongue, telling them that they are welcome. She introduces herself as Katarina, so she's letting herself be who she really is. This is the first kind of scene where we get that she's accepting her real self. She even does better at work and bonds with Santa, who tells her that she only uses that nickname for whatever job she has. Duh, as nobody else is going to know how to pronounce her name. Additionally, she tells Kate that she's seeing the Danish man, the weird... So throughout the movie, this Danish guy keeps coming into the store and just making really awkward conversation with Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
Just like... And I think, are they trying to do like double entendres with their Christmas talking?
Probably.
Right? Like, I feel like that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
But it's just... They're talking about weird ornaments. And I didn't know if they were trying to say, oh, yeah, this is how they dirty talk with each other. So apparently the Danish man can't pronounce his... she can't pronounce the Danish man's name either. She refers to him as boy, which is vaguely racist. But I guess it's okay because Michelle Yeoh's saying it.
unless if you're Kratos.
Right.
Then it's perfectly fine. Boy.
So it doesn't really go into it here in the synopsis, but Michelle Yeoh and the Danish man wind up kind of meeting halfway with each other, and he learns how to speak Mandarin.
It's very Love Actually. It's made me laugh.
It's a nice scene.
I think going more to our thing, I know we're jumping around a bunch because we're using synopsises here, but going back to what we were talking about with the more Emilia Clarke, Michelle Yeoh, that whole scene when she's getting ready to go on her first date with the Danish man.
That's right, yes.
Is one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah, that's a really touching moment between Michelle Yeoh and Emilia Clarke, where Michelle Yeoh kind of overdoes her makeup, and she's doing too much.
Yeah.
And Emilia Clarke kind of tells her to tone it down and helps her. Like, she takes out the fake lashes and basically just like, you're beautiful the way you are. And that's a really nice, and again, like you said, Mark, that's something that you would think furthers that relationship in a more motherly daughter kind of way. But it's really just, I got you, girlfriend, like, I'll be your rock. I know how to do this.
Yeah, and she has a great line, Michelle Yeoh, which I only really caught because of the captions, is she calls her the swiper queen, because I guess Swiper is their Tinder on here.
Tinder, yes.
Yeah, and she goes, "Thank you, Swiper queen."
I was confused. I was like, is Swiper a real thing, or is it just like in Europe? Is that the European version? I don't know.
No, it's I very much think it's the
royalty free, like
the way around it.
It's the RC Cola of dating.
Well, RC Cola is a real thing, but
it's the off-brand kind of.
Yeah, it's the example I would use, and it's just how my brain works. It's like how on iCarly they had paired devices instead of Apple.
Gotcha. Okay.
Like it's a wink, wink. You know what we're talking about.
Yeah, you know what we have. This is what we would have if we had the money. Kate later goes by Tom's apartment to visit him. She meets a realtor who's putting the place up on the market. Kate thinks Tom is selling the place, and that's why he always keeps it so tidy. But the realtor informs her that the previous owner has been dead for months. And this is the second part that is a big mistake. Having a random character tell us the big twist. Someone who he just met gives us this big moment. And it doesn't feel as impactful, at least to me.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been better if she, like, Mark, I think you were the one saying the man who she kind of has not a fling, but she starts to get feelings for at the homeless shelter.
Yeah, like the person she's interacting, because they have a nice little thing when they're talking about Tom coming out of the coffee shop.
Yes.
And sort of nice chemistry there where he goes, blokes and that he doesn't want to commit. you know.
Yes. Oh, did you find your Tom? Like, oh, you'll find him. Blah blah blah. Like a very nice man. And so what I thought was going to happen was she would have like a picture of him somehow, and we're like, oh, this is my Tom, and he'd be like, oh, I know him. Yeah, he passed away a few months ago, and that would kind of send her reeling a little bit. But what happens in the scene is just the realtor is like, oh, this. It's really tough to sell an apartment after the rules of the deceased. Essentially, like it makes it a little bit more difficult. It's like, oh, deceased? What do you mean? Go, yeah, this guy died a few months ago. Someone named Webster. Like he doesn't know who it is, right? Which makes it a little more impersonal. Like, oh, so some guy named Webster. So yeah, we find out that he passed away a year ago, and we see in a flashback to when Tom is riding his bike through the streets and is hit by a truck.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're seeing a side by side of Kate being wheeled into the emergency room to get a heart transplant.
Yeah.
And receiving the heart transplant from Tom.
Here's the one thing. I don't think transplants happen that quickly. A.
Probably not.
And B, like it just seemed like making it an emergency was obviously just for the dramatic effect of the movie because I didn't say they needed to have a scene where it's like, ooh, we found you a heart, but just I don't know. It just felt kind of rushed.
Yeah,
the whole thing.
Because I think you're right. In real life, it's usually not a bang bang scenario.
Yeah,
it's
like they got to make sure it's unless if I'm obviously not a heart doctor. Unless if it's something where you don't need to make sure that it's compatible.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you have to with like blood types.
Yeah,
right. Because the body could just reject the heart and then you die.
And obviously, the only dramatic they did the dramatic by having them side by side, but it could have very well just been they found his donor card, took his heart, and then she got it later.
Yeah.
But they seem to try to make it seem like they're side by side in the OR.
It happened that night, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could have been right where she was being rushed in because they finally found her a heart.
Yeah.
It wasn't explained well enough, or the way it was explained, it happened. We don't even know what happened to her, really. She just had a bad heart. Is it because she didn't take care of herself back then either?
I don't know. Her whole life before the transplant, I just don't get because they don't explain it well enough.
Yeah, they don't really tell you. Was she? I guess she was on a good path up until then, and then just decided to kind of, in the words of Last Christmas, give it away, right? Giving her heart away. So yeah, if you haven't figured it out by now, the entire movie is based off of George Michael's "The Last Christmas" song. This year, like last Christmas, you gave me your heart, and then the very next day, she was basically giving it away because she doesn't feel like she deserved it. So if you know the song, you've kind of already figured out the twist before the movie even begins. So obviously, Kate is devastated by this. Sits on the bench that she frequented with Tom and made out with, which was now kind of, if you're Kate, you kind of think that you're crazy. And it turns out the bench that she was sitting on with him and making out with him on is a bench that was memorialized for him. It says, "Look up." So if she just happened to look back instead of looking up, she would have seen that this guy's dead. That would have been an interesting twist. She's on the bench, she's making out with him, she just looks down and like, wait, that's your name. And it says you're dead. I guess it's not as impactful as a random realtor telling us that. So Tom once again visits Kate one last time and tells her that she will be fine. Sometime later, I think it's 2 weeks later. It doesn't really say, right? I think it's 2 weeks later, right, Mark?
Yeah.
2 weeks later, Kate helps put on a Christmas show with the help of the patrons of the homeless shelter. She wears a festive dress as her family comes to see her, and she sings Last Christmas for the 100th time. And that is the end of Last Christmas.
Yeah, they this whole scene had a couple funny moments. Well, then they go to the actual end of the movie. They go to the house for the Christmas dinner and start singing a song in Croatian, or Serbian. I don't know what exactly.
I don't know what they are.
But no, she says from Croatia the song Emma Thompson. But I don't know if the language, if they speak Serbian or if it's Croatian or whatever. But that's how it really ends. But I love the they do the thing they do in a lot of these Christmas movies, which I quite enjoy, and I laugh every time I realize it in Love Actually, is they have this event where everyone you've met in the movie is there.
Yeah. Oh, at the
party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like everyone assembled. Like the cops were there. The realtor was there.
The realtor was there.
Why is the realtor there?
I have no idea. It's like when it's like in Love Actually when it's like this thread of people that all seem to know each other in some way. You know,
just through Kate.
Yeah,
but
they probably knew each other all through Kate here. But it's just like the realtor really. What he has is that she took a phone from a person's apartment, might have mentioned the squatter, fainted in there, and now he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come to your benefit for the homeless shelter."
And if you're Kate, why do you invite him? He's the one who delivered the devastating news to you. So
yeah, it's one of those things where it serves as like a rap party too. It's probably the last thing they shot.
It's the big feel good moment of the movie.
Yeah.
And again, it was a nice little. It probably should have ended there, honestly. Everyone there dancing, being happy, but no, they had to add on the family getting together, which is fine.
Then we wouldn't have the line of Emma Thompson in a Yugoslavian accent saying the word lesbian pudding.
Again, I don't know why she wrote herself as Yugoslavian.
Well, they wanted to do it was during the whole Brexit thing. I'm assuming they wanted to get that into the movie because they knew when it was going to be released. But yeah, it's just that 100% that's what it had to be, because or else they would that storyline really, that whole section really could be lifted from the movie.
Yeah, it really wouldn't have mattered. And even if you wanted her to be nice to a stranger on the bus, you could still be nice to a stranger on the bus without having to speak the same language.
What they were trying to say is her being comfortable with her past.
With who she is,
who she is. That was the whole point of that little section. But they didn't need, like, they were trying, and it's the whole thing with some of these movies trying to,
it's like shoehorn it a little bit.
Not even shoehorn. I mean, you time capsule it too much or something. The word I'm thinking of, where you, like what Ann always yells at me at the podcast when I mention, timestamp it. That's what I'm looking for. Like when I mention something like topical that won't make sense to someone listening in a year on the podcast, like that stuff, like 10 years from now, people are like, oh, why is she upset? What is, and sort of, timestamp it for something not even like relevant to the movie.
You date it, essentially. It's now the movie's dated a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think it does an okay job with, maybe people in Europe would understand it a little bit more than Americans, because they lived it, obviously. But I think it does a fine job of not dating it too much, if at all. Yeah. But yeah, I just think you're right. You probably could lift that part of the movie out. It's fine. Doesn't really make a difference. But yeah, that's Last Christmas. It could have been a much better Christmas movie if the twist wasn't what the twist was. Yeah. I don't. Like we said at the beginning of the movie, it's fine. I don't think it deserved the hate it got when it came out, but this is what it is. Yeah,
and I mean, like I said, I won't turn it off if it comes on the TV. It's not anything offensive or even terrible, but
sure,
it has so much.
Well, usually, Mark, unless you have anything else to say.
No, I'm good.
Usually we would have a third segment, but since Anthony's not here, it wouldn't feel right to do so, and I figure we would just end it by saying Happy Holidays. We hope you guys have a very happy holidays with your family, friends, loved ones. Mark?
Yeah, you. And don't forget to look up.
Don't forget to look up, and also please remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Again, we're on iTunes, Stitcher. Just search They Called This a Movie. We'll pop right up. We're also on YouTube. If you want to give us a follow on YouTube, it's free. We would definitely appreciate it. And, if you have time, leave us a review. Write something nice about us. We would definitely appreciate it. That would be a great Christmas gift for us here. But yeah, we will be back next week. Very much looking forward to it. And again, we here hope you have a very happy holidays with friends and family. And for Mark Myers, I am Dan Aquino telling Paul Feig, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you?
Thanks for listening to They Called Us a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Called Us a Movie.